What's up, friends? Welcome into Rock Chalk Sports. We have made it to Monday after it was a weekend that was with Dan
It was a
Courtwright.
weekend.
I'm Sean Kellerman. We're going to tell you all about that weekend, the good and the bad and the ugly from the weekend here in Lawrence and the surrounding areas. But appreciate you joining us. Want to first shout out Miles Schneider, Crown Automotive, great partners with us here at Kansas Nation. Check out kansasnation.com. Keep up on all things KU. Thanks as well for listening as well on ESPN Kansas City. Hey, here in this opening segment, we're talking KU K-State football. Yes, we have to relive it. The 123rd rendition of the Dillon Sunflower Showdown, like the previous 16, did not go the way of the Jayhawks as the Hawks fell 42-17. We'll get into that here in the opening segment. Plus, we'll bring on Kevin Flaherty in studio. Kevin joins us from the Kansas City Sports Network, and he'll touch on KU football and some KU basketball stuff as well. That was the good from the weekend that was the goings-on at the Yum Center on Friday night. We'll hear from head coach Lance Liepold post-game next segment. And then in the 5 o'clock hour, Case of the Mondays. Dan, there's been a lot of NBA news in Case of the Mondays, particularly the arrests that have been made on the gambling side of things. Some related to sports gambling, some related to poker gambling.
Yeah, a lot of some weird like mafia. It's like an episode of The Sopranos that's in real life. It's one of the
it's grabby.
It's one of the it's grabby. It's one of the crazier things. I'll kind of go through it, but there's like X-ray machines to like look at cards through tables. It's one of the wildest things I've ever seen. And Chauncey Billups, of all people, the head coach of the Detroit Pistons, is in on this. Terry Rozier was gambling on games. I mean, it was bad. LeBron James's old head coach when he was in Cleveland was fixing games too. So a lot of really not so good stuff.
Not as much fixing games. Fixing
Well,
games more
it's
so
more
the
so
Tim Donaghy,
insider-
but
insider
information,
information
yeah,
kinda
which
stuff,
is
yeah.
fraud. So we'll get into that. Terry Rozier, interesting story off the jump. So he's probably the second best NBA player who came from Louisville in terms of current NBA players behind Donovan Mitchell.
Sure.
There was at the KU Louisville game at the Yum Center, there were fans holding up NBA Rozier jerseys, I think just to get on TV, but
man.
it was kind of a chuckle, interesting look there. After that, though, we are talking KU basketball after our Case of the Mondays segment. We'll tell you why I think it's a bigger deal than just one exhibition game, the performance that KU had on Friday night, and get Dan's take on that as well. KU soccer had a great weekend. We'll update you on them, as well as KU volleyball, who had some good and some bad as well these past few days. Then to close the show today, we're going to do our Monday Night Football preview, special Chiefs versus football team Monday Night Football preview. They're not going to have Jaden Daniels, Will Washington, but we'll give some game picks as well. All right, Dan, get into this right away. Didn't go well. KU was probably the worst version of themselves, I would say. I mean, throughout the majority of this one, 42-17. Hawks dropped to 4-4. They're 2-3 in Big 12 play after losing to K-State. What was such a bummer in this one is the fact that, yes, KU didn't play very well. K-State probably played their best game of the season, and it just made you hurt even more for the last two seasons when Kansas should have beaten K-State and ended this streak, which has now reached 17, because it just wasn't in the cards for them on Saturday. That's not giving an excuse. That's calling it how it was. KU was outplayed in every phase of this game, and we started with we thought was going to be a good omen on the opening kick return. KU converts it to a touchdown, but then it was all K-State after that for the most part. They scored the next 21 points. They got the next 3 takeaways. It was only a 7-point game at the half, and KU, it looked like, had gotten some momentum, but then too many bad things happened in the second half. I'll get into my thoughts on it, but main storylines, turnovers, inability to pressure Avery Johnson. They were pressuring JD all day. Johnson was the better quarterback in this one. And honestly, again, just getting outplayed. They put on the screen at the new booth, turnovers 3-1, sacks 4-0. It's like, well, you're probably not going to win that game.
Yeah.
And it was a game where two probably evenly matched teams went at it. KU didn't play well at all and results in another loss.
Yeah, I guess I can look at this two different ways. I can look at it holistically in terms of the rivalry, in terms of the last 17 years, and I can look at it for this game in general. And I want to look at it for this game in general. I'll even pull in a little bit from last year, where you said it best. These last 2 years were when it needed to happen. And all week last week, I kept on saying have to. Kansas has to win this game. They have to win this game because this was, we talked about it, the biggest game of the Lance Leipold era, and just a complete goose egg out there. Egg on our face, just completely ran through. Avery Johnson looked really good. And look, you can look at the weather and say, all right, well, yeah, the weather wasn't great because Jalen Daniels wasn't able to throw the ball. He wasn't able to place the ball anywhere. I thought this was the worst that JD has looked, maybe even in his entire time since maybe his freshman year, in terms of ball placement, in terms of feeling rattled. Right, you saw a cutaway on the TV where of him taking, kind of meditative breaths, right, because he was a little rattled out there. And Kansas got off to a hot start, right, with the fumbled on the opening kickoff. Kansas was able to punch it in on a question mark kind of touchdown. Jalen thought that he was in, so I'll believe Jalen, but Kansas started off 7-0, and then after that, Kansas only got in the red zone one other time in that first half, and it was at the very end of the first half when Daniel Highshaw punched it in with 38 seconds left. You absolutely cannot do that. And the weather, sure, you can point to the weather and say that was a big factor. JD, he went 17 of 35 for 129, an interception, not a lot of deep shots, some swing passes, some stuff in the intermediate was dropped by some players, but JD just did not look good. And you look at the last 2 years of just the pressure of that streak continuing to weigh on the shoulders of not only Lance Leipold, but the players as well, because they're hearing it from different fans and different people in their lives saying like, man, I can't believe Kansas hasn't beat K-State in 16, now 17 years. This is absolutely insane. Like, how does this stop? So at some point, it probably becomes mental, right? It becomes a mental thing. Last year, Kansas absolutely blew the game with a field goal at the very end by Kansas State, which, by the way, was not a chip shot. It was an excellent field goal made by Kansas State at the end of the game last year. This year, Kansas was never in it. I mean, except for the very beginning when Kansas scored that first touchdown, they're up 7-0. You go, oh, hey, look at that. After that, K-State 100% dominated that game in every single facet of the game. And Lance Leipold had talked about this. He said, look, they had a little bit more zone than we probably anticipated, right? Their defense was bringing a ton of pressure, continuing to flush JD out of the pocket, but you still can't have that kind of play from a 6-year senior like Jalen Daniels, who has seen K-State, who has played in all different kinds of elements before. We've never seen him play this bad, right? So I don't know how much of a mental thing that it was in terms of a mental block that, hey, it's K-State and there is a lot of pressure on this game, because Lance Leipold, he likes to talk about how, hey, this is just another game. Like we're going to play hard with every single game that we play. So he doesn't like to amp up the rivalry aspect of it, but still probably in the back of their minds are thinking, man, this is going to be a very tough game. And look, this K-State team, we've been saying it this entire season. This is the worst K-State team that we've seen probably since the Ron Prince era, right? They were horrible at the very beginning. They barely beat North Dakota. They've been sneaking out some wins here and there, sort of on the back end of what's been their schedule so far. But this K-State team is bad, and they didn't even have Dylan Edwards, right, in a game where the run game needed to be established. And I want to talk about the run game, too, because, look, Daniel Highshaw was okay, right? He had 19 carries for 67 yards. That's 3.5 yards per carry. It's not fantastic, but he was really the only bright spot, I think, of this entire game. Latham Arjan, I guess, had a 47-yarder. Other than that, I don't think anybody played good. I think that this was, and the term embarrassing keeps on getting thrown around, and I don't want to use that word. But in terms of all the hype that was coming in with this game and showing up like this, getting beat 42-17, that cannot happen.
Yeah, it was bad. And, people talk about the weather. K-State had the exact same weather.
Absolutely. Yes.
And they didn't have any
You're exactly
problem.
right.
People want to, I guess, be on the ledge, right, after this. They do. And a lot of people will say, oh, I'm not going to watch a game until next year or whatever. All right, well, I'll get into the reality of the situation here in a second. People who want the Jalen Daniels era to be over, I think that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
JD, going into this game, had 18 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. I mean, that's the bottom line. Yeah, now he's got 18 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. And yes, we know there have been some fumbles. We've been fortunate on a couple of those fumbles to get them back, or the touchdown we had today, all that. Jalen Daniels has broken a lot of streaks for Kansas football. This was not one that was broken. So the next group of guys, they're going to have to be the ones to break the streak. JD didn't play well. I'm not giving him excuses. He was by far the inferior quarterback in this one, and credit Avery Johnson. Same token, JD running for his life a lot. He
Yeah.
was. Again, KU was not winning the trenches up front. JD, Avery Johnson, when you're looking at this from anybody with even just minimal football knowledge, you can see, okay, one quarterback has the ball and he's just standing there and he's standing there and he's comfortable.
Yeah.
One quarterback is running around in circles and making figure eights and all that. That was a problem, right? The turnovers are a problem. A ball thrown behind Kubeka that Kubeka jumped and probably shouldn't have tried to tap it at all or touch it at all, taps it in the air, ends up being an easy interception. What was frustrating again was the beginning of the game was supposed to be such a good omen, not because you got a takeaway necessarily right away and then convert it to a touchdown, but it was a takeaway on special teams.
Yeah.
Special teams, it's like, oh my God, the bugaboo that we've always had, and now we're the ones who get the big takeaway on special teams. KU gets up 7-0. K-State answers with a long scoring drive. It's 7-7. And then, sure enough, KU has the special teams blunder again.
Yep.
And you can't blame this one as much on the special teams as the previous couple of years, maybe. But yeah, it's like no matter what, it hasn't been in the cards. Last year, we have the fumble. Chris Tennant hits the 50-plus yard field goal when he could have just missed it. The previous year, yeah, you have the Trevor Wilson fumble. Plus, last year you had the Jameel Croft incident that led to 9 K-State points.
I haven't forgotten.
2023, you look at the Trevor Wilson fumble at midfield on the punt. Well, you also had Rich Miller who had a walk-in pick six. Any of those end this streak, and KU was not able to do it. So again, it's just going to have to be the next group of guys that's not Jalen Daniels and company that end this streak. And now we're going to have to put this behind us. That's the bottom line. You're not going to get it back, just like you're not going to get the Mizzou game back. We will face these guys again, and hopefully it's a happier tune after that. The people who are upset at JD or Lance Leipold, I get it. It was not something any of us expected. The worst performance of the year, undoubtedly, by KU. You get crushed by 25 in a game that you were holding on to, and I do think you had a point about the mental element. That is a big reason. KU fans were so uptight about this, right? It has to happen. It has to happen. Well, I think the players were feeling some of that, and it just fell apart. KU, under JD and Lance Leipold, and I understand, Daniels hasn't played every snap, has gone to 2 bowl games. They've also gone to 2 bowl games in the last 16 years. So I don't really understand the mindset of 8 wins is all of a sudden the basement, the floor of Kansas football, and that's just how it needs to be. The reality is we've been to 2 bowl games in the last 16 years. I'm not saying that I don't want 8 wins to be the floor for Jayhawk football, but that's the reality of the situation. We're 4-4. K-State's 4-4. Yeah, we have a long losing streak. That's annoying. We still have 4 games to go. Getting to a bowl game would still be a good thing for this program, and I think people need to remember that even on the most frustrating of days.
When does and I'm just going to play devil's advocate here. This is, I guess, my thought process, but when does the tides turn, right? Because you look at K-State back in the 80s, who they probably went through a worse dry spell than Kansas
90
ever did,
years,
right?
90
just
years
horrible, and then
terrible football.
Then Bill Snyder came in and completely flipped that. At what point in that process did people start to go like, all right, yeah, I mean, well, look, we're not competing for national championships, but at least we're not as bad as we were last time, because the tides have to change. And I understand in today's world, everything moves so quickly where you move on from, oh, well, no, this is a completely different team, right? But it's still, if you think about it, they're still kind of in a rebuilding process, right? Jalen Daniels was the quarterback when Lance Leipold took over, right? Lance Leipold hasn't even had one of his recruits come in as a quarterback and lead this program, except for, Cole Ballard a couple of times, right? So it is interesting to kind of look at that and say, when do the tides turn, and when do we stop saying that, yeah, but look where we came from, right? It's like, no, well, also look at where we're at now, and is this the ceiling of where Kansas can be? Can we get to national prominence? Can we get to the college football playoff? Can we get to a Big 12 championship? I don't know. Definitely not right now. Maybe in a few years, but it's not right now. So I think that, you have to look at that in terms of like, yes, I understand that Kansas was bad for so long, but now we're not bad. Now we presumably have our guy who can take us to that level, and we still haven't been able to do that. So there's a couple of ways to think. I'm not saying that that's the way that I'm thinking about this. I'm just saying that that's one way to look at it
And
of like,
that's how
yeah,
fans should think.
and, yeah, exactly,
And I
right.
don't blame them. That's how they should think. We want to win consistently, consistent winner. We want to beat our rivals. We want to compete for championships every year. I totally understand and I totally understand. Oh, well, we're past that. Coach Leipold came in and Coach Leipold set a new standard for this program. Okay. So now he needs to exceed that standard that he set. I get that. And I don't want to look back on 2020 or even, 2008, 2009 to 2020 and all the losing that took place either, but sometimes you do have to take a step back and realize that it's not easy. It's great, the idea of going from 6 wins and the Liberty Bowl to 9 wins and the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, and then the year after that you should have 12 wins, and it would be great, right? That's
Yeah,
why we're fans, is we want a consistent winner, and it's not always how it works. A lot
correct.
of
Yeah.
times things don't go your way, and this was a stinker of a game, and a game in a season, I guess, where you have 12, 13 games, you're going to have a couple stinkers. And unfortunately, this happened on a day where Kansas really, really wanted to get one done and end a streak. But yeah, I get both ways of thinking. I get the frustrations. I get the fact that people are tired of losing to K-State. And I get the fact that people don't want to hear the positives or any sort of optimism. I totally understand it. And it's all, yeah, it's all, I guess, based on ways of thinking of different sports fans. But bottom line is KU loses by 25. We're going to be joined by Kevin Flaherty right now from the Kansas City Sports Network. Kevin, appreciate you coming in studio, and thanks for listening to our little banter here as we try to figure out where we're at and pick up the pieces from Saturday. This was kind of viewed by majority of KU fans as a must win,
Yeah.
and it didn't go well. Your take on the game on Saturday?
Yeah, and I think you guys made so many salient points about almost the way that both teams saw the game and the way that the fans saw the game. Because when Jalen Daniels dove in, you had the fumble, and they say, "Hey, the ruling on the field is upheld." It didn't feel like joy in the stadium to me. It felt like relief
Yeah.
that wasn't a fumble at that point. K-State goes right back down, scores, makes it, 7-7. Then you have the punt snap, and Lance Leipold even said today, "Hey, it deflated our guys." And so you had a very nervous energy, I felt like, on the Kansas side from the fan standpoint. And from the K-State team standpoint, you really sense that they were confident in this game, that they felt like, "Hey, we've always beat KU. Why wouldn't we beat KU again?" And so even when you had Jalen Daniels get in the early mistake, it wasn't like you ever sensed that there was any worry on that K State side that things wouldn't go that way. And then you have another game where you get some of that momentum back before half, where you kind of look at halftime the exact same way you did against Texas Tech, where it was like, well, that was a bad start. You get down like that, but hey, you're here just to score down. You have a chance heading into the second half, and then to not be able to capitalize on that momentum at all against Texas Tech and against K State. I think they had 7 third downs where KU was either down a score or down 2 scores. They went 0 for 7 on those third downs offensively, and it wasn't all on the offense. You guys did bring up, a lot of the issues with Jalen's play and all the things that go along with that. But at the same time, if you're not converting third downs, if you're not, forget getting the ball in the end zone, if you're not even moving the football in those situations, it becomes really, really hard to kind of put pressure on the other team, where you can make that other side feel like, oh my gosh, we may lose this game.
And one thing we didn't talk about, we talked about the offensive woes and Jalen not playing well. We talked about the special teams woes. We didn't really talk about the defense. The defense, they were giving up some big chunk
Yeah.
plays, right? You saw the Jace Brown 78-yard touchdown, I believe. Just what did you see out of the defense there? I mean, that was. I hate to be negative, but that was one of the worst performances I've seen out of this Kansas defense probably this year.
7 yards of play for K-State. And so there are going to be some people who are going to say, oh, they didn't even get 400 yards of total offense. Well, they had short fields,
Right.
They had a touchdown on special teams. That cuts into that total yardage thing. But yeah, you look at the long play to Jace Brown as an example, and for us, it's so tough to tell where the blame for a play like that lies. What happened was they were going to run the ball. K State was in run. They look over. Austin Alexander is pressing uh, Jace Brown with no safety help.
Yeah.
And Avery looks over and says, it's money time basically. And so you don't know if that's on Austin Alexander, hey, you shouldn't have been doing that. You don't know if he should have had safety help. You don't know if it was a play call that was what he was supposed to do. It's impossible for us to know that. But for whatever reason, you wind up in a situation where one of the fastest and hardest to jam wide receivers in the Big 12 is playing press, is getting pressed by a redshirt freshman cornerback. And it wound up going about like you would think that situation would go. And I thought defensively, the run defense was a little bit better, right? You didn't have the giant busts against the run that you've seen in previous weeks, but it looked like the Cincinnati game, and that whenever K-State wanted to throw the ball downfield, there were open guys to throw the ball
Right.
to.
Kevin Flaherty, Kansas City Sports Network, joins us in studio. Kevin, I guess the big question of the day: where do you land with kind of the this or that we were talking about? The whole, hey, we're not going winless, we're not winning one game, versus, hey, we want to be an 8-9 win team. I mean, it's just such a tough balance, and I don't know if it's purely optimism versus pessimism. Everybody's frustrated about the long losing streak to K State. Your thoughts on the KU football program as a whole, because it seems like the fan base is kind of divided on this.
Yeah, you guys may be able to tell from my hairline, like I've been doing this a little while. But I remember in '06, it was Mangino's 5th year. So exact same point. And they went 6-6. And there was a very real discussion on the message boards. You didn't really have social media to the extent you did now, but that was basically the version of it of, okay, we used to be the best or the worst program in the Big 12.
Yeah.
Mark Mangino rescued us from
Right.
that. We're no longer there. But is this our ceiling? Are we doomed, so to speak, to be 6-6
Yeah.
for eternity?
Sort of like purgatory.
Yeah,
Of like playing
exactly.
in the Great Bowl
And
every
you
year.
and you wind up going to the Orange Bowl the very next year with a first-year starting quarterback, actually. I'm not saying Kansas is going to go to the Orange Bowl next year. I'm just saying these things, as much as we want them to be linear, like you said, where you want it to be, okay, you go from 3 wins to 5 to 7 to 9, and you're in the college football playoff. A lot of times there are reasons that you're going to take a dip here, or maybe things don't go quite as you would want them to. Last year was a lot like '06 in that you had all these close games that weren't going KU's way, where it could have been a more successful year and wasn't. And then this year, you're really starting over at a lot of spots. And it stinks that the timing doesn't quite sync up, because obviously last year, if you had this version of Jalen Daniels, you might win 9 or 10 games a year ago. And now you have Jalen Daniels, but you don't have Devin Neal. You don't have Kobe Bryant and Mello Dotson at the corners. You don't have that experienced roster that you've sort of grown up with. And then next year, you're looking at possibly returning more guys, but you're not going to have Jalen Daniels anymore. And so I get the frustration from that standpoint, where you're saying, well, gosh, you don't want to waste the final year of Jalen Daniels. You don't want to have him go for 26 touchdowns and 4 picks or whatever, and you just barely make a bowl game. The one thing that I would say too, though, is you have to get to a bowl game at this point, and the reason why is those bowl practices are so valuable, especially when you're talking about next year's quarterback is probably going to be a guy they have on roster this year, whether that's Cole Ballard, who's currently the number 2, whether that's Zeke Marshall, whether that's David McComb. It's going to be one of those guys. You need those extra practices to kind of give those guys that time and continue to develop and all of those things. But I know you guys saw a lot of the comments from people who are like, I'm ready to move on from Jalen Daniels. I'm ready for the new era. The worst thing that they could do at this point would be to hand it off, go 4-8, and rob themselves of those extra practices. It's
Yeah.
basically a second spring practice with all of the practices that you get for the bowl games, and they use a lot of those to get young guys reps. And so Jalen still has a lot of importance for this program over the next few games, and that if he can help this team get to a bowl game, it's really going to help set up next year's roster, even if he's not going to be on it.
And I wanted to talk to you. I have a couple of questions, but I'll start with what you were saying about a bowl game. Looking forward, right? Got 4 more games.
Yep.
You got Oklahoma State coming in. You feel, in theory, good about that one. Do you see another win on the schedule? Because there's a tough stretch in those last 3 games with Iowa State, Arizona, and Utah.
I don't see an auto win for sure. I mean, I think that when you look at it, for whatever reason, Kansas has kind of had Iowa State's number. Now, Iowa State's not a bad team, and it's not going to be easy to go and win in Ames, but that's a game that Kansas could certainly win. Arizona, Kansas could certainly win. Utah is gaining a lot of momentum at this point, and if you saw what they did to Colorado over the
Yeah.
weekend, it certainly seems that they're kind of hitting on all gears. And so, to answer your question, I don't see sort of that automatic sixth win where I'm just like, well, they'll go to a bowl. But I don't see any reason why Kansas couldn't pick up one of those two sort of post Oklahoma State games if we are looking at the Oklahoma State game and saying Kansas should win this one, which I think Las Vegas and all of us would probably agree that this is, a game where Kansas should bounce back and get back into that win column. If Kansas doesn't find a way to win
Oof.
on Saturday, then all of a sudden you're in a bad place.
And I want to, at risk of, creating more of an agenda for the haters online. One more K-State question. What did this game mean for Jalen Daniels and Lance Leipold's legacy? Because that's something that we talked about leading up to this game as well. Like, this is basically a legacy game for both of those guys.
Yeah.
Kind of came out flat.
Yeah, I think Lance Leipold put it in a good way, or you guys put it in a good way today, talking about basically when fans look at it, they want to be successful. And part of that is you got to beat your rivals. You got to have that ability to go to the water cooler, see the Missouri fan or the K State fan there and say, I got you this year. I got scoreboard over the next year. And Lance Leipold hasn't been able to do that yet. And the good thing for him is, I think, barring absolute disaster, I think he gets to continue to build on that legacy and potentially, get a chance to get across the finish line there. For Jalen, I hate it because I do think he's having such a special year. And certainly I can imagine what your guys' mentions were like. My mentions, there were a lot of people that were ready to cut bait with Jay. I'm tired of this. I'm done
Yeah.
with Jalen Daniels. And I hate to see that because as you brought it up, he has broken so many streaks. I mean, when you look at just absolutely embarrassing things where, hey, you haven't won a Big 12 road game,
13
since,
years or whatever it was.
or whatever it was, and he leads you to a win at Texas. The West Virginia game, I feel like was a Jalen Daniels game, and that I felt like the team really ate off of kind of his energy in that game, where even after they got down 2 scores in Morgantown, it was sort of, he was like, okay, like let's have fun. And I think that 2022 team really fed off of the energy that he had early that year. That Duke team, people forget it now, they won 9 games that year.
Yeah.
And that Houston team, I think, won 8 games, and they went in, beat Duke here, go to Houston, win that game. And so I kind of push back a little bit on when people say, oh, Jalen hasn't won a big game, and you look at the 3 ranked games a year ago. But I do think that this is a game that, had Jalen found a way to beat K-State, people would have looked at him wholly differently, and he would have been one of those guys that when you call him back and you have a game here at the booth 8 years from now and they say, hey, Jalen Daniels is in attendance, and he waves, that, people were going to turn to the person next to him and say, he's the guy that broke the K-State streak. Here are the positive memories I have about him. And it's unfortunate because it's one game in there, but I do think that because of the way that game went and because Jalen played so poorly, he might have lost a little bit of that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bummer. At the same time, you can't do anything about it
Yeah.
now, right? And you just gotta move on. Hopefully, KU has a really strong November,
Yeah.
and certainly, I know that the three of us love KU so much. We want Jalen Daniels to still down the line get that applause from the fans.
Sure.
And hopefully it's something along the lines of, KU went to 3 bowl games when Jalen Daniels was here, and and his senior year they ended up winning the whatever bowl, and that's still on the table. And yeah, it sucks. I mean, you feel, it's kind of like a sibling. We cover these guys so closely.
Yeah.
You feel bad for them, and you're members of the media. You're not necessarily best friends with them, but you're also not just behind the keyboard, never showing your face to these guys. I mean, you're there, you're covering these guys. You feel for them because you know how much they care. And certainly in the situation with Daniels, that's a guy who's so unbelievably talented. And people, when they're frustrated and when emotions are high, even not even talking about football, but the phrase everybody loves the backup quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Football or otherwise, that's how it is, right? Jalen Daniels has had a special career. He's not going to break the K-State streak. We haven't had a lot of luck in certain games that we've wanted to win, but we still have a chance to go to 3 bowl games while he's here. And certainly, I think very highly of him. So accountable, and just want the best for him this month of November, and hopefully a bowl game as well. So yeah, we'll continue to keep grinding because that's what we're going to do. We stick with these guys, and hopefully the fans do as well. KUathletics.com/tickets. November 1st, homecoming against Oklahoma State, the first of 4 remaining games for KU football. Let's talk Jayhawk basketball, Kevin. Friday, I know, is always a busy night for you covering high school sports, but it was a fun one at the KFC Yum Center. 90-82 over Louisville, was not that close. This game was somewhere between 10 and 16 throughout the second half in terms of margin. And I'll let you just kind of break this down, overview of what happened. But man, in warm-ups, I'm sitting there looking at Louisville. I'm looking at Kansas. I'm thinking, I think we got more dudes than them. And it was pretty clear off the jump. Louisville had a little run, but my goodness, the best way I could put it, two teams played this game on Friday. One of them has a chance to be playing in April, and it's not Louisville. And there's a lot to like about what we saw from our Jayhawks.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked on this show about the fact that maybe KU is getting overlooked a little bit given that they had NBA guys there. And now
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that all of those guys are going to be NBA guys immediately, but they've got guys that certainly are tracking in that direction. Darren Peterson was terrific. And the funny thing was, obviously he shot the ball really well, but that's not even really what makes him so special. And so in a weird way, it was like, well, yeah, he had 24 in the first
Left
half.
you wanting more.
Yeah, had 26, but at the same time, it's like, man, like I'm really excited for KU fans to get to see the quote unquote real Darren Peterson too, when he's just, sizing things up, attacking the rim, creating for everybody. You got to see the defensive motor that he has too, which I think is something that maybe gets undersold a little bit there. From a freshman standpoint, I thought the game was a little fast for Cole Rosario. That happens, especially when you're playing competition like that right out of the gate. But man, Bryson Tiller,
I know.
how about the
Man.
way that he played? I mean, what did you guys think of Tiller's
He
performance?
was incredible. He was incredible, both sides.
Not to
Yeah.
overreact, but I think we should start hanging his jersey in the rafters.
Yeah.
No, I thought he was fantastic. I mean, there's a real
He's,
possibility there's some competition there with him and Trey White.
well,
at the
he's
four.
he's an interesting player, isn't he? Because you wouldn't describe him as uber athletic, right? But he does have some bounce to him, and he's big. And again, I don't know. We were talking about this with football. People hate talking about previous years, but at the same time, we compare that. Guys, 2 years ago, we had Hunter Dickinson and Parker Brown, and that was our bigs. I mean, and KJ Adams played the 4, but that's who you had in terms of guys that you, I guess, would throw it to on the block. Those are your options. Dickinson, we all know about him. He's a walking double-double, limited in certain facets. This year's team, you got Flory Badunga, you got Bryson Tiller, you got Paul Mbia, who it hasn't even. I mean, he's not even going to scratch the surface of the type player he's going to be.
Trey White.
Bryson Tiller, I
Yeah.
mean, my goodness, like 4 blocks, 2 steals. He had a baseline dunk. Yeah, he could be really special.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you look at that whole group, and it's funny because I do think he's made a case to play some more and maybe eat into those Trey White minutes a little bit. And I think that's a good thing for Trey White too, because I think that Trey White had a really nice game as well. I think he hit 2 or 3 from 3. He does a lot of little things to help you out. But one of my worries when looking at this roster was, is Trey White going to be kind of shoehorned into that 35 minutes a game type situation because they didn't have other options at the 4? And with Tiller playing that way, and I don't know how you guys feel, but I actually feel like you can play Tiller a little bit with Flory and have those guys out there. I'm not saying I would build my whole team around that, but at the same time, I thought that was the thing. I thought Melvin Council really competes. I mean, he really gets after it. I know he didn't shoot the ball well, but when you looked at the defense and the way that he attacks, he's a great fit for this team. And when you start getting Jaden Dawson healthier and all those things, when you look at some of the things that El Marco did, it felt like so many guys, even if they didn't have great games, had moments, and that's what you want to see this early on.
100%. Kevin Flaherty, KCSN, joins the show. One more basketball question for you before we let you out of here. KU, they're taking on Fort Hays State tomorrow night in Allen Fieldhouse.
Give us a breakdown of the Tigers.
No, that's right. I wasn't going to say give us a breakdown of the Tigers, but in terms of whenever a D2 player or a D2 team comes in, what's the main thing you're looking at? Because I'm looking at some of the younger guys getting some action,
Sure.
right? With Jaden Dawson only got 3 minutes, I believe, of action against Louisville. Just what are you excited to see maybe out of some of the different rotational depth pieces that Kansas has?
I think there's some of that. I think the other thing that I like to see is how focused are they, right? Because it's a long basketball season and you can lose games that you're not up for one reason or another. You're not always going to have an A+ shooting night where you go out and drill 15 threes and just run away from the other team. And so with it being Fort Hays State, is it a game that we're looking at and it's 12 minutes in and KU's leading 27-23 and it's a little sloppy and you're kind of like, they didn't really come to play? Or is it something where I think Bill Self has talked about how competitive this team is. And the thing about a competitive team, and I realize this sounds so cliche, they love to compete. And so are they going to come out and put it on Fort Hays State early on? I think that's something I'm looking to watch. And to your point, I do want to see Cole Rosario when he's not playing against a top 15 team and see, okay, what's the bounce back look like? What's the process look like? It's also a chance for Bill Self to kind of look at some different rotations and try some things and see, can these guys work together? Can they play together? I want to say, and I know this is going way, way back, I want to say the game where Self kind of discovered or started really utilizing the Russell Robinson Mario Chalmers duo in the backcourt was like a Yale game or something like that, and it was a game for them to try something. It was like, hey, that looks kind of nice,
Yeah,
and it
right.
wound up being really good, and so it does give you a chance to maybe experiment, get some guys out there, and we saw what we saw from Flory, who had some foul trouble. Obviously, saw Bryson Tiller. Do we see something from Paul Mbia this game where you start to say, like, okay, this is an area where maybe he can impact or help this team out?
Man, it was so much fun on Friday, and
Yeah.
and yeah, it should be a fun season. I was gonna say this a little bit later, but I'll just say it right now. It's not a big deal, right? It's an exhibition game, but if you look back at the previous 2 years exhibition games, I think it's kind of a big deal. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll see. Time will tell. But KU controlled this one throughout against a team ranked higher than them, and yeah, I mean, it just was so clear. I'm glad you brought up Council too, because Bill Self loves guys who can get it and go. I mean, you
Yeah.
look at the 22 national title team with CB and Ochai and Jalen Wilson. It's like, man, get a rebound and go. Melvin Council, that dude is so fast. Like he's
Yes.
going to be one of my favorites because everything is just faster. And again, it's only one game. We get that, but we're going to get excited. Everything seems so much faster. And yeah, if DP hits threes like he was doing, then he actually had a really good stroke. I know that that's
Yeah.
not necessarily how he's going to
He hit like
most
40
impact the
some
team.
percent last year
Yeah.
at Prolific Prep. I know people don't talk about shooting as it because he's got so many other strengths, but I certainly don't think it'll be a weakness of his this year.
For sure, man. It's fun. He's a special player, and it's going to be a special season here in Lawrence for our guys. Tomorrow against Fort Hays State, final exhibition game, 7:00. Crimson and Blue coverage starts on the Jayhawk Sports Network from Learfield at 5:30. Kevin Flaherty, Kansas City Sports Network. Thanks again for coming on.
Thanks, guys.
All right, let's get a victory this weekend against Oklahoma State, and we'll have a joyous conversation with Kevin next Monday. Thanks for watching Rock Chalk Sports on KansasNation.com and listening to ESPN Kansas City. Welcome back to KansasNation.com, ESPN Kansas City. Didn't go well for KU on Saturday. They lose in the Dillon Sunflower Showdown. Here's Coach Liepold postgame.
I'm with Coach Liepold. The mics on both sides. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll get you a mic. We'll start with Henry.
Lance, what do you make of your struggles in the passing game today?
I don't think we ever fully got in rhythm. I think some of the early pressures probably put Jalen a little bit to hurry things. It just never looked very in sync whatsoever as we have been before, even when we had some guys open. Just when there, I don't know how many balls I think we had like 3 or 4 tipped as well. 2 interceptions on tips or through someone's hands, so not where we want to be or need to be at all in a game like this.
Lance, you talked about making this rivalry more competitive. Just how much more frustrating is it then to lose by 25?
Yeah, major step backwards. Definitely a major step backwards in that, and we have to own that. We're thoroughly outplayed. You know, they executed better than us. They were more physical than us, and that's very disappointing. And, as a head coach, you have to. It's your responsibility to have them ready to go. And I don't think I don't fault our effort. I want to. I don't feel there was anything. I thought our guys, especially in the last 72 hours, were very excited and focused on playing as much as we talked about taking steps like that. I thought they were. So again, getting a turnover early, I thought we had some great momentum and energy, but that dissipated real quick.
Lance, I just wanted to give you the chance to kind of address the KU fan base. I know a lot of the fan base kind of expressed a sentiment, embarrassment or disappointment about how the streak has lasted against K-State. What would you say to them, and what would you say to, needs to turn the tide to change that?
I'm sorry, I'm not quite understanding exactly what you're saying. Can you ask it?
Yeah. A lot of the KU fan base has expressed a sentiment of embarrassment.
I'd be embarrassed too. I'm embarrassed right now. We need to play better than that. I'm embarrassed. If you're saying the win streak, I'm frustrated that we've lost 5 because those are the 5 that I've been here. So I can't control the past. I can work on the future. So all of that. But if I was a fan, I'd be frustrated as well.
What do you think needs to change to make the streak end? When you look at it holistically.
Well, again, we can go through every year here the opportunities that we had that we didn't. Now today we got thoroughly outplayed, and like I say, we didn't execute very well. We, anticipated them, and this isn't. When I say this is a complete team program loss, so it's not any position. But again, we talk about things in the passing game, inconsistencies running the football. We talked about it earlier in the week about being better in special teams, and we get now you could say they had one as well. So if it's a wash, but it was a big one because there's an immediate touchdown. We anticipated them throwing the ball deep, and then we gave up more deep balls today than we had all year. So that was, but again, that's being so. Frustration across the board is warranted, and blame starts with the head coach.
When you went into halftime down touchdown, then you come out with the ball, how deflating was it that the first few minutes of the second half went so thoroughly against you guys?
Yeah, very disappointing. You feel you can feel when you're down 2 scores and you know that you're in for a battle all day, and you fight your way into it, and as you'd like to get into that, part of scoring, getting points at the end of the first half was that we're getting the ball start the second half, and you feel really good about that, and then of course you go 3 and out, and it continues the frustration of continuity. And we can go back to a couple weeks ago, same thing. We battled within it. We had a third short and didn't convert again. So all those things of being opportunistic in those situations have not occurred.
Hey, Coach. Seems like it took maybe a little bit of time to get in here after the game. Just wondering kind of what the conversation was with the team after this one. Just kind of what the energy is like.
Well, I apologize if I was a little later than normal because I do a radio, and then I talk to recruits, and we have recruits here. But I don't know, I probably talked maybe a little longer than before because, again, us owning that we're thoroughly outplayed in many different aspects of the game and those things, but also talking about the challenges that are forthcoming. And again, and could be kind of related in here to a little bit of questioning is a lot of people on the outside now will start chipping away at some of the things that we do within our program. And it's for our players to keep working hard, stay focused, believe in one another, not point fingers. If you want to point fingers, you can point them at the head coach. But again, it's an important time to see where we'll be. And I want to make sure I emphasize that as they left that locker room tonight, because again, that's what history will show. So again, we have a chance, and I've said this to our team after wins and after losses. Again, first of all, when they walk in on Monday, we have to own what's on film. We have to be coachable and understand what we have to do. As coaches, when we're in here tomorrow, we have to look hard at what we're doing, and is it working, and do we have the right people in the right places? Okay, and as we continue to work, the way this conference is set up is that you have a chance that we can win a lot of football games yet, or it could be a very long month or so.
Hey Lance, Jalen's been pretty good going into this game. Did he talk to you or tell you what he was seeing, why he was struggling?
Yeah, I thought a couple that, I think there was one early where it got deflected. I don't think he saw a guy in the flat. It was one right into our boundary. And I don't know if I don't want to use the word because I'll get quoted that he was spooked or something, but you kind of saw something. I don't think he was seeing things real clear at times. I know the young man battled all day for us, and I think probably some of those runs and those hits and, just to kind of keep battling that way probably took its toll on him a little bit more than we would have liked. A couple things, even when he did get sacked, there was one I know that if he steps up and goes right, and if he goes left, it's at least open to get a throw off and stuff. So again, a lot of things coming at him. I think they got us in a cross blitz with the two inside backers, and there was Daniel saw it, and Lyman led off of it, and we thought we had it. And after that, I think there's just a lot of things happening in his face that probably, to their credit, put him off rhythm and put our passing game off rhythm.
What do you think of the way Highshaw ran today?
I thought he was excited to play in that. I thought he competed so hard, and there's a couple times, we had a couple guys trying to make plays and planting off inside foot in wet conditions and slipping and falling, and we had a few where guys slipped. But Daniel competed. He was excited about playing, obviously, and I thought he played very well for us and competed hard, especially with LaShawn being less than 100%.
Kind of on that same front, what did you think about the offensive line and their play, especially with Nolan Gorsica and Enrique Cruz on that left side?
Well, Kelvin was not 100%, so we're going to rotate, and which makes it harder on Enrique because he's going to play some right tackle, left tackle, and of course reverse footwork all as he's doing that. But I thought he's handled that well. He's played well for us. Without grading film and watching, I can't really tell you what each guy did there as far as production-wise. But Nolan played well a couple weeks ago. Again, anything that has to go with a line play and where we're at as far as total production on the day, I can't really say right now that it was a great day up front for us as well. So a lot of work to do.
And you've seen similar defensive fronts like that with the kind of that 3-man down. What was the biggest difference that you saw at K-State compared to similar defensive fronts that we've seen in the past?
Schematically, not a ton different of what we've seen them mixing in. They probably had, maybe a little more 3-man, some stuff that I don't have all the numbers in front of me that we had, but they had played a lot of 4-man fronts. But I thought what they did do is really did a nice job of mixing up how they brought people and brought the backers and stuff, and and those things, and very disruptive. And the thing about it is that I thought that just off observation from the sideline is when they did come, they came physically, and they were physical, put their hands and pads on people, and when they were coming, they were moving people, and that is credit to them.
One more.
Yeah, on Monday, I think you said, Avery Johnson, underrated passer, and then today you said you expected him to throw deep a little bit. But do you think you guys got the message there? Did you know that he was going to be more dangerous as a passer because he obviously can run too?
Again, Avery's a fine quarterback. We thought that it'd be short throws and deep throws, not a ton that he sits and throws a lot of intermediate throws, and that's pretty much what they did, and then they mix in some runs with him, and he's extremely dangerous. But yeah, and for that, to not defend the deep ball a little bit better was disappointing. I'll say that. And, you know, even in their first touchdown drive, they, I mean, we give up 25 yards of penalties, one defense holding one face mask and things. So, I mean, it's when you're giving them half the yardage of their drive on penalties almost, you're not giving yourself much of a chance.
And then real quick, you got a bunch of guys who have been here for a while, been through this for a while, some that haven't. When you look around in there, you guys have always done this, you know, treat every game like it's sort of the same game and a new game and its own game. Does this one, do you see hurt more in the eyes of these guys? Or
There's, I mean, that's as down of a, you know, and that's going to be the other thing is that, you know, again, you got a lot of work on, you got a lot of things you got to do, you've got to get things corrected, and again, for everyone, it's, okay, you know, you got to get off the mat and you got to get back to work, and how you going to handle that, and if you know, and you have a team that's down right now, you got to find the middle ground to continue to address what needs to be addressed, motivate, and get things corrected and play, and you know, get ready for another home game here against Oklahoma State, and again, a team that will provide its own set of challenges. So again, there'll be a lot of things to work on here in the next 48 hours for sure.
All right. That's Lance Liepold post-game KU's loss on Saturday. We're going to hear from Coach Leipold. We're also going to hear from Coach Bill Self on tomorrow's show, Rock Chalk Sports. KU basketball in action against Fort Hays State exhibition tomorrow at 7 o'clock. More Rock Chalk Sports after this on ESPN Kansas City and KansasNation.com. 5 o'clock hour here on Rock Chalk Sports. Dan.
Yes.
I'm not going to ask because I already know the answer.
Was it tough getting out of bed this morning after my weekend-long bender?
Yes.
No, I actually didn't do much this weekend.
You covered the Jayhawks and you posted stuff on KansasNation.com. Check out KansasNation.com and all of our socials.
I put my heart and soul into that website.
Yes.
So yeah, that was the majority of my it's busy season, as you know. I did go to Buffalo Wild Wings though on Saturday by myself.
Did you say hello to Dalton over there?
I did say hi to Dalton. I went there. It was after the K-State game, and I was like, I want to watch a football game where I don't have any stake in it, and I don't care about it, and I can just like mindlessly like stare at the TV and like drool, and then like also like the World Series is on.
Also, they have
I was like, I just need to be like away. So I told my fiance, I was like, look, I need to get out of here. Like,
dude,
I was so
so mad. You do that too. Did she go also?
No.
Yeah, sometimes that has to happen, right?
That's what I'm saying. I was like, look, I need to go and sit at because I live like a block away from Buffalo Wild Wings. So I was like, I just need to go sit at this bar, eat some wings, and drink a beer, and just like empty my mind. Because I was it's a good thing that we didn't do like a post game. You did a post game show. I didn't.
I did.
I'm after the K-State game. Like I was in such a bad mood. I was like, I can't. And then after that, I had one beer. I had some buffalo wings, and I went home and I went to bed. That was it.
Sounds like a fun night.
Yeah, I mean, I was depressed. Like I had buddies who were like, "Oh, hey, we're at blah blah blah." I was like, "No."
I was so tired that day.
I can believe it.
I was so tired.
You spent 9 hours in a car.
Oh man, seriously! Shout out to Greg Gurley and Scott Hahn for driving. We stopped.
You didn't
once.
drive for a second?
No,
you didn't. Didn't even offer.
There were 5 of us in the car. 5 of us in the car. Gurley drove to St. Louis, and Hahn drove from St. Louis to Olathe, Lawrence.
Good for you. Good for them.
I know. They answered the call. They made up some time. I'll just put it that way. But no, it was sometime in the 6 o'clock hour that I hit the pillow.
Jeez.
And then boy, that alarm clock came coming. Got over to David Booth, Kansas Memorial
What time did you
Stadium.
get to the stadium?
I was close to game. I mean, it was 10:45.
Sure. I mean, what do they expect you to do, right? I mean, it's you spend all that time in the car.
Because I spot for Haney on the Jayhawk Radio Network, so I don't just show up for post game. So I am there. Right. I don't have anything I have to do for Crimson and Blue for football season. Of course, DL and I handle that for basketball season. But for football season, BMAC does that, and I was like, man, I'm usually here 90 minutes out for the show. Like I'm going to bed at 6:30 or whatever time it was.
Yeah.
Like, whew, I was just happy to get home before the sun came up, because then you're all screwed up.
Oh yeah, no. You hear the birds chirp, you're like,
yeah. It was worth it for the basketball game. Football game, that was a bummer.
For sure.
And I hate losing the 11 o'clock games.
Me too. Yeah, I mean, yeah, literally, I was telling, like for the rest of the day, I was like, what do I like?
Right.
I'm not. I wanted to go to bed right after the game. I was like, I don't even want to be awake.
And you're like,
right
it
now.
is 4:30.
Yeah, it was horrible. I was like, oh, all right, whatever.
KU Oklahoma State this upcoming weekend, of course, homecoming 3 p.m. Get out to the booth and support the guys. And then the game time also came out for Arizona, KU at Arizona in Tucson. It's going to be 2:30 Central on November 8th.
So is that 1:30 there because they don't do daylight
I am
savings?
always confused by that.
'Cause
And also,
Arizona's
when
the
is
state.
daylight savings? We got to look that up.
It's this weekend.
Does that mean
It's
that means
always
we
Halloween
that means we
weekend.
gain an hour?
Yeah. So it's a fall back. So
it's Saturday into Sunday, right? So
Correct.
Saturday night.
The reason I know that is because every single year in college, when because you'd always get an extra hour at the bar.
Yeah.
So at 2 o'clock would hit, and then it'd go back to 1 o'clock, and then all the bartenders would go, "Hey, everybody, get it for another hour," and we'd be like, "Yay!" But then you're like, I have memories of like, oh, I was like dressed up as like a hot dog or like you know like a pirate or something. I was like, oh, so it's always on Halloween weekend. It's always the last weekend of October.
Right. Oh man, weird things happen to you when you're dressed up as a hot dog, dude. But I just had a great idea.
Yes.
Top 10 things you wish you had an extra hour of.
Ooh.
How good is that? How good is that?
We're doing that tomorrow.
Are we doing it tomorrow?
Yes.
Top 10 things you wish you had, because we will get an extra hour this upcoming weekend. So it won't be Friday night. It'll be Saturday into Sunday at 2. It goes back to 1, right? Anyway, I don't even know. I never know what time it is in Arizona. I don't remember if they are 1 hour behind or 2 hours behind, what time of year, whatever, but anyway, let's get into this. Case of the Mondays. Who's starting this off?
I'll start us off with, there are a lot of huge stories over this past week. I'll start off maybe the biggest one. Case of the Mondays for Chauncey Billups, Damon Jones, and Terry Rozier. So all of these guys were involved in an FBI sting operation. Weirdly, like some of them weren't related, but Damon Jones and Chauncey Billups, 2 former NBA coaches, one of them a current NBA head coach. Both of them were arrested for an illegal poker ring where they were playing in rigged poker games. And I'll share some of the details. So some of the details of the rigged poker games that Jones and Billups were involved in. This is from the U.S. Attorney press conference. Apparently, they had X-ray machines built into the tables to read the face of the downward-facing cards. They had contact lenses and glasses that could read pre-marked cards on the back, and they had secret cameras in the card trays. This was all, by the way, performed, like put together by the mafia. Did you, in the year 2025, did you think that the mafia would still be involved in anything at all?
I had to read it again when I saw the mafia. I'm like, wow.
It's absolutely insane. I thought the mafia ended whenever Reagan busted up all the unions in the 80s, but I guess they're still around. I guess they're still giving it the old college try. They're like Sears, right? They're just like, you're like, oh, I guess Sears is still around. You know, the Sears is like the mafia. I don't know. Maybe that's a bad example, but you get what I'm saying.
I do. This is crazy to me, and this also isn't really, aside from the fact that he's an NBA coach, this isn't like the Terry Rozier thing. The Terry Rozier thing was, unfortunately, I mean, if you want to look guilty, put out a tape like Terry Rozier did.
Oh my gosh,
the
I know.
Hornets game against whoever they played.
So I have a thing about Terry Rozier.
Yeah.
It says the FBI says Terry Rozier told people close to him that he'd leave the game early and to bet his unders in
which is what Jonte Porter did, right?
Which is exactly what Jonte Porter did. I said over $200,000 was placed on him in a 2023 game. He checked out after 9 minutes with a foot injury. $200,000. Terry Rozier made a lot of money. Why are you giving that all up for $200,000?
That's what's confusing.
So that's
oftentimes you see that it's like, man, what happened to your money?
Is it like a power thing? He's like, oh, well, I have, you know, like I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to look too far into it. But Terry Rozier was apparently fixing games. I mean, you saw some of the, you know, some of
my
them.
God,
he was
that one
rolling
highlight
the ball
tape.
to,
That's
not
that's
a good
brutal.
highlight tape. Scary Terry, man.
I can't get over the poker game. Getting back to that real quick.
Yeah, it's insane.
How do you? First of all, it's not sports, right? It's just that Billups, former player, current coach. I get it. But it's interesting that it's all part of this.
Yeah. Well, Damon Jones.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It is.
Trying to figure out how there's a lot that goes into poker. Like,
oh yeah,
and knowing your opponent's cards, knowing pretty much everybody at the table's cards.
Yeah, right. like all like
The
in terms of
cameras
like
in the
numbers.
shoe.
Yeah, that it's absolutely insane. Damon Jones is probably the worst out of all of these because Chauncey Billups was involved in the mafia. Terry Rozier was involved in fixing games. Damon Jones was kind of in both. Like Damon Jones was giving information to sports gamblers
About
while
a
he was
prominent basketball player.
about LeBron James.
Yeah.
About LeBron James. He's like, yeah, hey, LeBron's not going to play in this
Like
game.
sending texts saying,
His
"Hey,"
unders.
he
Yeah,
sent
it's
texts saying, "Hey, I'd put a big bet on Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Bet enough so that D Jones can eat too."
Right.
Something along those lines.
Insane. It's just wild to me that this is still, and like, look, it's good that they are stopping this, but also it's like we're so deeply ingrained. I mean, hell, we're doing a game pick segment after this. You know what I mean? So it's just weird how gambling is so deeply ingrained. I mean, like when ESPN was talking about it, they were talking about how horrible this is, and on the bottom scroller they had a little ad for ESPN Bet and take get $100 free bets if you use whatever promo code. It's like, yeah, I mean, people are going to. Did you expect that was the biggest concern whenever people started talking about sports gambling becoming legal, and it became more and more legal throughout the entire United States, and everyone's saying, "Oh, well, there's going to be a point where everybody fixes games." We're at that point.
I guess so.
I mean, we were at that point a long time ago. Now it's even more so.
I
And
really
it's just- it
wonder.
takes a
I really
couple
wonder
guys.
what the percentage is, but yeah, you would think more information, more news about this is going to come soon because it's a continuing thing.
It's very funny. I did see the Miami Heat on the availability report. It was like so and so out foot, so and so out hip. Terry Rozier out, arrested due to FBI sting operation.
Did it seriously say that? Oh boy. Oh boy. Hey, how about
Very
BK? BK joining the James Franklin group of
That's
Fight
right.
It.
Do you think they're gonna maybe get a timeshare down Key West together and spend all their money?
So they've got 102 million between the two of them on the buyout.
Insane. So Brian Kelly, if you didn't know, got fired by the LSU Tigers. This is kind of this is actually a crazy thing. So apparently they were like going around the suites at the LSU Texas A&M game, like asking donors for money for his buyout.
That's bad.
Isn't that horrible? It came out. There was a report. I don't know how much legitimacy there was to this, but there's a report that the governor of Louisiana was trying to use taxpayer money for a buyout for Brian Kelly because he wants him out of there so bad.
What's LSU's record this season?
Which is insane to me because he brought his family down
they
to
did.
Louisiana.
They did crush him.
Right?
God.
Oh, they got killed.
They're looking at Kenny Dillingham.
Is that right?
Potentially Lane Kiffin.
So how many? My dad sent me this. How many Division I coaches have been fired as of this year? I have it. Okay, so here it is. So 2026 openings updated: Arkansas, Colorado State, Florida, Kent State, LSU, Oklahoma State, Oregon State, Penn State, Stanford, Virginia Tech, UAB, and UCLA. Those are all the head coaches that have been fired as of right now. That's insane.
53 and 49 $9 million buyouts just for Kelly and Franklin.
So here's a question, because I don't like Greg Marshall, never have liked Greg Marshall, but I've respected Greg Marshall. Do you want to know why I've respected Greg Marshall? Because he got fired from Wichita State, had a massive buyout, and he just completely vanished, and he is living on a golf course, enjoying his time off.
Yep.
That man has completely stayed out of the public eye. I love the fact that he did that. So that's the only thing that I do even remotely respect about Greg Marshall when he got fired from Wichita State. Is there a chance? Where's Brian Kelly? I mean, does he maybe potentially even look at the UCLA job?
His southern accent didn't work out.
No. Family. I'm here with my family. You've never talked like that in your life, dude. You've never talked like that in your life. He gets a job at Boston College. He's going to walk out with a Dunkin' Donuts cup. Be like, hey, I'm walking here, you know?
Maybe he
from
should
Boston.
Maybe he should go to Boston. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. Just anywhere with a fun accent, right?
Yeah.
Get a job in Minnesota and be like, oh, hey there, guys. I'm very, very happy to be the head coach here at Minnesota. He's a fascinating creature.
It didn't go.
I don't like Brian Kelly. James Franklin's whatever. I wonder where they're going to land.
I mean,
crazy that they're pooling together donor money for the buyout.
They will get a Power 4 job.
So yeah, probably. Here's the thing though, North Texas. Which actually, this is the next one I wanted to get to. Case the Mondays for Rudy Rudiger, because there's a new walk-on fantastic story in town, and that's Drew Mestemaker. Have you heard about this kid? Drew Mestemaker. He leads the country right now in passing. He's a quarterback for North Texas. North Texas is coached, by the way, which what I was getting to. He's only 40 years old, probably going to be the guy. At the end of the season, everybody's going to be calling his phone for. There's a ton of job openings.
Sounds like they're going to be calling on Mestemaker as well.
So that's the thing. He's probably going to take him to another Power 4. Drew Mestemaker leads the country in passing. Only a freshman. This weekend, he threw for 608 yards. And the Mean Green, they're 7-1 right now. The crazy thing about Drew Mestemaker, that man never started a single varsity football game in his life, was a 0-star recruit, and walked on to North Texas.
I'll tell you something even crazier.
Yes.
Marcus Calvin.
Didn't have a barbell.
Did not have a barbell in his high school gym.
I did hear that, yeah. But that's absolutely insane. See, never started a varsity game in high school.
Yeah. Good on him. Hey, that's a win for the little guy.
0-star, walk on. Now he's a freshman.
608 yards passing.
Freshman leading the nation in passing. That's one of the more insane things I've ever seen. And North Texas' head coach, they're 7-1 right now. They're putting up insane numbers every single week in, week out. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, this dude,
think it's
Eric
gonna be
Morris. He's going to be gone.
You got to think it's going to be like a, wherever their coach goes.
Hey, let's see where
go there.
Eric Morris went to school. Texas Tech.
Well, that job is pretty secure.
That's probably That's
Joe
probably
McGuire's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Also, he coached at Houston as a GA.
Willie Fritz is.
Yeah,
they're
they're fine there. Washington State.
Wazoo.
Wide receivers for only 1 year in 2012.
It's only 40. So
Let's
probably
see,
not a big resume. He's a man. He's 40.
He's a man. He's from Littlefield, Texas. So that's not going to be fun. He's just going to get picked up by a Texas school of some sort.
Yeah, but like Arkansas is close. I mean, also like if LSU comes knocking at your door with a lot of money, like what are you going to tell them no?
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't know. He's probably up to the task. Case of the Monday is for Jalen Brown's barber. I don't know if you saw this.
This was so confusing to me.
So yes, so Jalen Brown obviously plays for the Boston Celtics. Apparently, his barber's been doing something to his hair. I don't know if it's thinning or what, but sometimes there are some guys who use maybe a little extra
little paint,
spray paint, if you will. We have a video for it. Let's go ahead and watch that video.
Thickening product.
So I don't know if you caught that. Jalen Brown did a rip through. His head went on the white jersey of OG Anunoby for the New York Knicks, and there was a very clear black mark coming from his head that wiped off on OG Anunoby's jersey.
Maybe it was just a
Carlos Boozer used
special
to do this,
mousse of some sort.
No chance. No,
I don't remember Boozer doing that. I thought he was bald the whole time.
Oh no! Early in Boozer's career, when he was bald but didn't want to admit it, it was basically like a roller paint on. It looked horrible.
I can see it now. The Celtics even posted a picture of him where this is very a couple games ago, Rise and Grind, where he's stretching and you can tell that it's just not real.
Just let it go. Here's the thing: don't use, because you're playing basketball. You're gonna get sweaty. That's bound to happen, and then people are just gonna clown on you. Just fly to Turkey, man. Get the hair plugs. Do what Sean did. Get the hair plugs. No, what's more embarrassing? That's like one of the more embarrassing things.
The smudge.
The smudge is hilarious. Can we watch it again?
The smudge.
Let's watch it again.
Yeah.
The foul call on Shemin. Brown fades away.
It's so funny. It's so funny.
Okay. To your point, Jalen Brown is making $53 million.
Get the hair plug.
God.
use the do not use the hairspray, the spray paint can you get for Halloween. Dude,
$53
you got
million.
money. You got money. There's solutions other than
the spray paint.
Spray paint, basically. Go do. What are you doing, man? Just go get the do. I mean, look, a lot of people have done it. A lot of people have done it, right? Jerry Seinfeld did it. You got to be LeBron James, right? LeBron James certainly did it.
That brings us to the king himself. As
Yes.
he's having a case of the Mondays. Has not played yet this season. Also, Luka is hurt. Also, Anthony Edwards is hurt.
Yes, that's true.
Also, Jason Tatum and Tyrese Halliburton are hurt.
Yeah.
They're probably done for the year, though.
Yeah. Austin Reeves, 51 points yesterday.
Oh, my
Did you see that?
God. Yeah, nearly a triple-double. Good for you.
Thank
Staying
you.
on top of
I know.
NBA.
Yeah,
Love that.
Look at that. Didn't watch a single second of it. Case of Mondays for LeBron James because it's one of the worst kept secrets, I believe, in all of sports, is that LeBron James is a he's a what's the word, compulsive liar.
Yeah. Yes.
He loves to make himself look better than he, which already he's my GOAT, right? I don't care what Haney or anybody else says. Like, he's my GOAT. Russell Westbrook came out. This is per an article by Yarn Weitzman. Apparently, Russell Westbrook in his time in LA grew tired of LeBron's, quote, fake behavior during their time. He said, I hated that fake stuff. I just can't do it. So here's some other things. So these are all just bullet points from this article from Russell Westbrook. LeBron quietly pushed for a reunion with Kyrie Irving, a move that would require trading Westbrook despite publicly denying it. LeBron often said, let Russ be Russ in interviews, but didn't actually support him behind the scenes. During a Lakers team event where Will Smith came to speak, LeBron and Anthony Davis suddenly walked out before he arrived. Minutes later, they returned, acting overly friendly. LeBron dominated the talk, asking questions and quoting movie lines. So apparently him and AD went out,
did some research,
went on Will Smith's Wikipedia page and looked at what movies he was in and found a bunch of quotes, and then went back and was like, oh, I loved you in Men in Black 2 or whatever. Also, Westbrook watching in disbelief told a teammate after, I hate that fake stuff. I just can't do it. Also, Westbrook said he saw multiple examples of LeBron misrepresenting himself, like claiming The Godfather was his favorite movie, but not knowing a single line. Carrying an autobiography of Malcolm X to interviews without being able to discuss it, and even saying that he predicted Kobe's 81-point game.
Yeah, I saw that clip.
Which he did. He is LeBron's like on record saying that he's like, I knew he was gonna score 81.
Yeah,
you knew he was gonna score 81. What are you talking about? It's insane. No, it's always great. You always see pictures of LeBron like holding a book, and he's always on like page 1.
Yeah.
He'd be like exercising, and they'd be like,
at least it's clear that he hasn't actually read it. But
No,
it is funny because
hilarious.
I've seen that.
It's great. Look, again, LeBron is my GOAT, but
probably a little bit inauthentic.
Can you blame Russ? I don't know. You gotta look at that. Also, case of Mondays for Louvre security. Crown jewels stolen. This is something so this is something that you brought up. I believe they just walked in and pretended that they worked there, which is something that you had mentioned in the past. Any criminals out there watching, avert your ears. Sean, you had said something along the lines of, if you ever want to get anywhere, what do? You
just carry a ladder.
Carry a ladder,
maybe a hard hat or two, wear a hard hat or two, and just walk in. People don't ask questions.
Even like a bright vest too, because then it's clear that you're not trying to hide yourself.
Yes.
Right. So wear like a bright vest, a hard hat. Carry around a ladder. Nobody will ask questions. I believe that's what happened with the Louvre. Crown jewels stolen, but
arrested.
Yeah.
Suspects have been arrested. We'll see how that plays out. That's our case of the Mondays for today here on Rock Chalk Sports. After this, we're talking KU basketball, a deeper dive into the victorious night in Louisville on Friday. Thanks for listening on ESPN Kansas City and watching KansasNation.com. Welcome back inside the Kansas Nation studios on Mass Street for Rock Chalk Sports. Hey, let's talk KU soccer. What an exciting weekend they had. KU soccer knocking off Utah 2-0. That was yesterday. A couple late strikes, and now KU all of a sudden 12-3-3 on the season. They are 6-3-1 in conference play. First 12-win regular season since 2019. This was a really important road trip where KU beat BYU, stayed in Utah, and then beat Utah. Now they're in a great spot. 5th shutout of the season, Dan, for Sophie Daw, the 13th of her career. And next up, closing out the regular season on Thursday against Colorado with senior night. But KU putting themselves in a good spot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was talking to Henry Greenstein about this off camera, about how if KU doesn't win these 2 games out in Utah, it's a possibility that Kansas A, wouldn't make the Big 12 tournament, but B, could still make the NCAA tournament, because in terms of RPI and where they're sitting in RPI, but also where they're sitting in conference play as well. But with this 2-game stretch, obviously a gigantic couple of wins for this Kansas soccer team. So now you have to start thinking, all right, well, yeah, they will be probably going to the Big 12 tournament, and they can make a run again, right? I mean, they were not expected to win at all last year, and they wound up winning it. So I think this is a fantastic 2-game stretch. And then Colorado, I don't think they're very good. Also, it's going to be senior night, so a lot of the girls are going to be amped up to play.
12 win season, also 12 in the RPI for Kansas soccer. They are 6-3-1, tied with Baylor for 5th in the Big 12 Conference. TCU leading the way at 8-1-1. West Virginia 7-0-3. Interestingly enough. So yeah, just after a really, really brief, tough stretch of the season, Coach Lee's group has come together, and they're finishing strong, and hopefully they beat Buffalo's team on Thursday, and we'll have all sorts of coverage for postseason soccer for Kansas. And let's talk KU volleyball now. Really disappointing, right? Because they knocked off TCU, swept TCU, a top 15 opponent at Horace Family Volleyball Arena on Wednesday of last week. Friday happens, all the excitement of K-State coming in, all the excitement of the first game at Allen Fieldhouse on the volleyball side of things since 2013. They win the first 2 sets. They've got a chance to close out the Cats late in the 4th set. Don't do it. And then, as we've seen too often, unable to play well enough, honestly, in the 5th set, and they end up losing a heartbreaker.
Yeah, really disappointing. Obviously, whenever you're hosting a game at Allen Fieldhouse for the first time since 2013 was what it was, you have to win that game, right? K-State was not a very good volleyball team either. So I think when you look at this game holistically, I don't think it affects the season too terribly much. Maybe the girls were just a little bit too, amped up to play at Allen Fieldhouse. The fans were electric, right? 75-50,
started
I
great.
believe. Yeah, started fantastic.
Sets.
Just not able to close it out, man. And look, the clock is ticking, and the AVCA has been very generous in terms of keeping Kansas kind of floating around sort of the middle to lower end of the rankings. I don't know how much this is going to necessarily affect that. It might drop them down quite a bit, but this Kansas squad is still really good. And they've been dealing with a ton of injuries too. So it is very unfortunate. And you got to just put this one behind you, move forward. But again, I thought the atmosphere was electric. Matt Ulmer did a great job singing the national anthem. I thought his voice was soothing, if you will. I thought it was nice.
Well, a lot more games still to go for volleyball, whereas, as I mentioned, soccer's already reached their senior night. But KU volleyball is 6-3. They're tied for 4th with Iowa State and TCU in the Big 12 Conference. ASU leading the way at 8-0. Colorado 9-1. So, opportunities still to come for the Jayhawks. On Thursday at Cincinnati. Cincinnati this season not very good. They're 3-5 in conference play. Then KU travels to West Virginia, the old Cincinnati West Virginia swing. Mountaineers are also bad. They are 1-7 this season. Back at Horace to take on Colorado and then Cincinnati again. So you like the fact that you get Colorado at home. The other thing that I like, Dan, is that you get a rematch against K-State. No, it's not going to be at Allen Fieldhouse. No, it's not going to be in Lawrence. But Saturday, November 15th at 1 o'clock, the same time as the KU men's basketball game against Princeton, which will be in Allen Fieldhouse. The KU volleyball team heads to Manhattan to hopefully get K-State back. And then it's the Utah swing of Utah and BYU before Iowa State and UCF to close out the month and the regular season for KU volleyball. All sorts of games to go, and I'm glad that they get a chance to get K-State back on November 15th. We'll keep you up to date with everything going on across the landscape of KU athletics. But now, Dan, let's talk KU basketball. What a scene. We talked about this a little bit earlier in the show with Kevin. AFC Yum Center, big, sits about 22,000. They weren't able to fill it to the brim, but a lot of excitement regarding Louisville basketball, a team that had won 8 games a couple years ago, and then 27 games last year. Pat Kelsey, ACC Coach of the Year, his first season at the helm at Louisville. Really talented roster. They hit the transfer portal well. They got Adrian Woolley from Kennesaw State. Of course, they have a top-tier freshman in Michael Brown Jr., who is number 7 on 24/7 Sports rankings.
Who I thought didn't have a good game.
And a first-team All-ACC guy, and Ryan Conwell, who ended up with 26 points, but a lot of that was due to volume and a lot of fouls in this one. This game featured 29 fouls by each team, 58 total fouls. You got 6 fouls per individual, and KU still had 2 guys foul out, Flory Badunga and Elmarco Jackson. The entire vibe of this one, flow of this one was better in the first half because he didn't have quite as many fouls. But first half was all about Darren Peterson. I mean, incredible performance. KU was up 46-30 at the break. Peterson in the first half alone had 24 points, 6 of 8 from 3. The story has to start with him. There's a lot of good things that we're going to get into, but the story starts with DP, and he was special. We expect him to have a lot of performances similar the rest of the way.
Yeah, 100%, right? 24 points heading into halftime. He finished the game 9 of 15 from the field, 6 for 10 from the three-point line, which I believe you had brought it up when we were talking to Kevin. It's like we didn't really expect Darren Peterson to be, that much of a three-point threat in terms of at least volume of putting up 10 threes in a game. I did not expect that. We knew he was able to do it, but in terms of getting those open shots and sinking them was electric. And look, I don't mean to overreact to this, but I brought this up. I think I tweeted this out at Henry, and I said they're going to have to make a new NBA Hall of Fame because the regular NBA Hall of Fame is not going to be good enough for Darren Peterson. That's how good of a player that he seemingly was. Now, I want to talk about the second half because apparently he was dealing with cramps, full body cramps, and it was reported by Gary Bedore that it was very hot in there. I'm sure how hot it was in there. But Darren Peterson, man, just as advertised, completely took over that game in the first half. Could not miss. Did a fantastic job on the offensive side of the ball. I thought he did a great job on the defensive side of the ball as well. If Kansas can find any kind of consistent scoring other than DP, then this team is going to be very, very good. This is a top 5, top 3, top 2 team in the nation. If they can find that other piece, you need that number 2 guy. It turned out Bryson Tiller had a fantastic second half of that game. So maybe you could potentially find some of that down low, but you need another guard who's able to put up points. And I think you're able to get that. You could be able to squeeze that out of a Melvin Council Jr., right? Out of just some different guys coming off that edge. Cole Rosario, I did not think had a very good game because it felt too fast for him. I think you could tell that right away about how, look, you see the athleticism was there, you see the raw talent was there, but just wasn't able to keep up with a lot of the guys, right? Because this is his first time playing against true college players who have meaningful college experience. It'll come with time, right? We've been talking about Cole Rosario. It feels like nonstop, or as some people say, nobody's talking about Cole Rosario. It'll come with time. Same with Paul Mbia, right? Paul Mbia, we saw him for 2 minutes of action, and he was okay, I guess. Just a raw kind of guy, has to be able to develop under Bill Self. But I think it's abundantly clear that Darren Peterson is there. The reason I say there's 2 reasons that Kansas needs any other consistent scoring other than Darren Peterson is, number 1, you need that in order to be a complete team and to be able to make deep runs in March. Number 2, Darren Peterson, like I said, went out of the game with cramps in the second half. He only had 2 points in the second half and pretty much sat the entire rest of the time. You need somebody to take a little bit of weight off his shoulders. I don't care how much you think Darren Peterson is Superman and can just completely take over games. He can do that, but he needs a break sometimes. He needs other guys to be able to take over as well, because you don't want to see him overworking his body so much so that he's dealing with cramps. He's winding up getting injured. You cannot have that. So you need some other kind of consistent scoring on the offensive side of the ball. But overall, I thought it was a fantastic game. You went in there against a top 15 team and you just beat the brakes off them. Is the best way to put it. The score doesn't necessarily reflect that. Like you said, LSU, Louisville went on a couple of runs there, but at the same time, KU's better than them in every facet of the game. Melvin Council, tremendous. Bryson Tiller, tremendous. There's going to be a legitimate conversation being had about Trey White and Bryson Tiller, which, by the way, Trey White also played very good too. He had a couple of not great turnovers, I would say, but still wound up with 14 points. He went 2 for 3 from the 3-point line. It's so nice, not to throw shade at anybody, but it's so nice to have a stretch four, a guy who can, get out and hit mid-range to 3-pointers at that 4 spot. We haven't seen that at Kansas in a long time. It's just, it's nice to see out of guys like Trey White and Bryson Tiller.
Darren Peterson had 24 of his 26 in the first half. Didn't play, really, in the second half. He played some, but he didn't play down the stretch. That could be A, because of cramps. It could be B, because it's an exhibition. Or it could be C, because, and I think there's something to this, Coach Self wants to see how these guys react when DP's not out there at game point.
Also that, yeah, true.
Hard to really get a read on this because there were so many fouls, but the guys did eventually close it out. The soft press at the very end bothered KU just a little bit, but for the most part, that soft press was no problem for the likes of Jackson and Council. Council, something that you, me, and Kevin Flaherty have all talked about today in a positive light. He only went 1 for 9, but you feel like he played well, right? He had 11 points, 9 of 10 from the free throw line. He had 4 boards and 4 assists, and I just noticed that off the jump. Early possessions, Melvin Council in transition is so fast, and you pair that together with DP, then you have something special. Other positives before I throw some negatives in this one, which there weren't too many unless you nitpick, because again, it was a pretty good trouncing of a top 15 team. Flory Bidunga led all players with plus 17 in the plus-minus category. He had 14 points and 6 boards, also a couple steals in that one. I thought Elmarco Jackson showed some good things. He hit all 9 of his free throws, scored 11 points. He also had a steal. Yeah, he fouled out, as did Bidunga, and that's an area that we know Flory is going to have to improve upon, controlling the fouls, similar to Udoka Azubuike early in his career, or a lot of young bigs, honestly. They get in foul trouble early, and they just kind of lose their presence on the floor because of that. So that's an area that needs to be improved on that front.
I would say, but how does it make you feel knowing that you have
a lot better
depth there?
As we said a little bit earlier with Kevin, this isn't just, the law firm of Dickinson and Brown, down there. You got more guys. And certainly when you start Bidunga and White, and then you still have the likes of Tiller and Mbia in the front court, yeah, that's pretty special. Cole Rosario, you mentioned, I guess he headlines the negatives, which I'll get to in a little bit. I don't think we need to read too much into it, but Tiller was awesome.
Yes.
Even in the first half, he was protecting the rim. He was showcasing, again, he's not the most athletic guy, but that doesn't mean that he's not athletic. I mean, he's 6'10". He was getting into passing lanes, ends up with 4 blocks and 2 steals. He showed an ability to dunk, and he showed an ability to mess around a little bit down low. So I like that out of Bryson Tiller. He could have a very big season, and a guy that wasn't talked about a lot in the offseason. But yeah, Rosario struggled. His first 2 threes weren't close. Understand that. He's still going to be, at very least, a good 50-50 guy, a good energy guy, and a good offensive rebounder. He's going to get it soon enough. KU did hit 8 threes in this game, but 6 were from Peterson, and the other 2 were from Trey White. Need to get some consistent shooting from the outside. I think that starts with Rosario. Jaden Dawson, he only played 3 minutes. I thought there were 3 good minutes. He had a denial at the rim and forced a turnover. Dawson didn't get a shot up, but he's a guy that we expect. He scored 14 points a game last year. We expect him to connect and be a vital part of this team in regards to 3-point shooting. So that was a plus, is the fact that Dawson at least got to see a little bit of playing time, but we need to eventually see that consistent 3-point shooting. If Trey White is going to be a better shooter than he's been in his career, which indications are he's going to, that's going to be a plus as well. Other big negative from this one was just the offensive rebounds for Louisville. KU shot 50%, Louisville 33%. Louisville was 21 of 62, but of their 41 misses, 42 misses, they were 21 of 63. Their 42 misses, 21 offensive rebounds. So they got half of their misses back. That's something that they're going to point to in regards to the coaching staff regarding a negative in this one. But still, you got to go. You got to win. You pretty much coasted to this one. Anytime Louisville got a basket and anytime there was any sort of energy in that game, KU would answer. And it was nice seeing that. They kind of finished it like veterans, even without Peterson out there, and were able to control it, and overall looked really good for initial showcase.
I think that you said it best in terms of, Kansas was always able to answer whenever there was a swing towards Louisville, which makes it seem as though this is kind of a veteran team. And we knew that Darren Peterson is the kind of guy who, it's weird because he's a freshman, but you have so much confidence in him that he almost feels like a veteran, right? And then you have a ton of the other veteran guys where KU teams in the past, you would see Louisville go on some runs and then they would just get down on themselves. They never got down on themselves. They never quit the fight, basically. So that's a good indication. That's something that you can take out of this, because this isn't Fort Hays State, right? This is a top 15 team with NBA caliber players that you're playing against in a hostile environment at one of the best arenas in the nation at the KFC Yum Center. And you went out in there and you just absolutely blew the doors off them. So I think that there is something to be said about that. 3-point shooting does need to really improve. You cannot solely rely on Darren Peterson to hit 6 threes every single game. That's just not a feasible thing to see. And like I said, with Cole Rosario, it's going to come. With guys like Melvin Council, with guys like Trey White, anybody on that wing, Jaden Dawson, right? We didn't even get to see Jaden Dawson other than 3 minutes in that game, which I thought was an okay 3 minutes, but still is only 3 minutes, right? Those are the guys you have to expect to hit those threes. With this game coming up against Fort Hays State, I'm interested to see how some of these other guys react in terms of, Jaden Dawson only did get three minutes. I want to see him come out against Fort Hays State and take over the game for, a 2-3 minute stretch. Not whenever he's out there, I want to see him be able to physically make an impact of one where everybody can watch him make that kind of impact. And something that you had brought up with Trey White hitting 2 threes. Trey White, out of all the transfers that Kansas got, he had the highest 3-point percentage out of any of them, right? He had a higher 3-point percentage out of Jaden Dawson, who we brought in to be a 3-point shooter, higher than Melvin Council, who we brought in as that 2 guy who should be able to make 3-pointers. Trey White came in shooting like 36% from 3. Now, granted, it was only like 1.5 threes per game, but still he's able to stretch and he's able to hit those threes, which I think is an absolutely huge thing. Now, the question arises of what do you do at that 4 spot? Because you have Trey White, who played very, very well, and you have Bryson Tiller, who a lot of people were not talking about because he was injured for so long. Yes, he was on the team last year, but he was still able to develop under Bill Self, and he played tremendous in this game. But at what point do the minutes distribution switch over to? Because I said this, and Fran Fraschilla even tweeted this out. He said he loves the 2 big lineup that we have with Tiller and Flory Badunga. Is it sustainable? Probably not. Right? Because you need a little bit more speed out there. Like you said, Bryson Tiller isn't the most athletic guy, but there's still an ounce of athleticism in him as opposed to some other players that we might have seen in the past. How feasible is it to continue to keep Bryson Tiller and Flory Badunga out there? Or is it going to be kind of a 50-50 rotation with him and Trey White? One of them is going to be able to rise to the top. I would imagine it's probably going to be Trey White, and then Bryson Tiller could stay and just completely take over for next year. But it's going to be interesting because I think everyone says you can't take a whole lot out of it because it's an exhibition game. I'm gonna take quite a bit out of this game because I think that what we saw is going to be relatively indicative of what we're going to see this season. Not 6 threes from DP, not shooting lights out like he did. But there are some facets of this game where I think that you can take them out and say, these are the good things, these are the bad things.
I think a lot of questions were answered for KU fans regarding what it's going to look like. Maybe not necessarily from a starting 5, but from a guy's roles type thing. Trey White, I think, is going to remain the starting 4, even if Tiller continues to play well, because you need a little bit of that shooting on a team that otherwise, to this point, doesn't appear to be an elite 3-point shooting team or have elite 3-point shooting talent on their roster. So I think having the option to have a stretch 4 is good. That doesn't mean he's not going to play 20 minutes and Tiller won't play the other 20 minutes. Because I agree, it was kind of nice seeing the 2 big lineup out there, and both Tiller and Badunga can move around a little bit, but you're kind of seeing, okay, Council's going to be, you don't want to say lead guard because Peterson falls into that, right?
Yeah.
But Council is going to be the guy who gets the offense humming, I think, and sets up Peterson for success. And he's got the speed and all that. And he's going to be out there, and he's going to be the defensive pest. That's going to be Melvin Council. Elmarco Jackson's going to kind of be that glue guy off the bench who comes in to spell Peterson or Council, and he helps against things like the soft press. That doesn't mean he can't score. He hit all 9 of his free throws. Love seeing that from El Marco, but he's going to kind of be, maybe 5th, 6th, 7th option offensively. And you don't really know what Jamari McDowell is going to bring. I guess going through the guards, he gave 16 minutes. A lot of them were solid minutes. Still kind of remains to be seen. Know that he's a program guy, still a young guy, redshirt sophomore. Rosario, I'm kind of throwing this game out. We're all excited about him, and he'll get it going because I know he's a confident kid. And then Dawson, he needs to hit threes when he's in there. We'll see if he gets more minutes tomorrow night. Hopefully he does. And then, yeah, you got to be more excited about the front court after this. Understand, and this kind of goes back to your point regarding taking a lot out of this game. We try to downplay it. We downplayed it each of the last 2 years when we lost, right? We said, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Well, now we won, so we can be excited about it, right? That's how it is. Last year and the year before, we downplayed it, and we shouldn't have. So if we're supposed to downplay this year, I'm not going to, because we probably shouldn't have downplayed it. Is that fair? No, it's only one game. It's an exhibition. Last year, KU didn't have a couple players in that exhibition. I understand that. But this was a game. KU was at full strength. And again, I kind of got the vibes in warm-ups. Man, we got more guys than them.
Yeah.
And they played really well. Hopefully that continues. And hopefully it's a good omen for the season rather than the exhibition road games, which ended up kind of being a bad omen for the seasons the last couple of years. So excited for that, and excited for the exhibition finale tomorrow against Fort Hays State. It all gets going Monday at 7 o'clock against Green Bay as the Fighting Doug Gottliebs come to town to take on the Hawks at Allen Fieldhouse. After this, Chiefs football preview and Monday Night Football game picks on Rock Chalk Sports, ESPN Kansas City, and KansasNation.com. Monday Night Football coming up tonight, the Chiefs and the Washington football team. Dan, Chiefs have good vibes. They're home again to take on the Jaden Daniels-less football team. Give us a little preview of this one.
Yeah, so the Commanders, or the football team, if you will, coming into Arrowhead with former Heisman-winning quarterback Marcus Mariota.
Yes.
So is there something to be said about that? No, there's not. Marcus Mariota is a bad quarterback. This is going to be an exciting game. The Washington football team has been dealing with a lot of different stuff. I had talked a lot of great things about Jaden Daniels in the offseason. I said that he was going to be a top 3 MVP vote getter, barring injury, which he's been dealing with injuries, which sucks for them. But they have a solid team built around them, right? Deebo Samuel, I think, is playing some really good ball as of right now. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, or Bill, as he likes to be called, has been doing some really good stuff. But at the same time, as of right now, there's no chance that they're even close to where the Chiefs are right now.
Public banged that 10.5, and it's already down to 10.
So, yeah, and the Chiefs have right now, it's at 10, but it's at minus 115. So the public likes the 10. People are liking the Commanders right now. I think people are either A, out on the Chiefs and they don't know ball, or B, just tired of the Chiefs winning all the time. And so they want to see the Chiefs lose, which I think is probably the more likely of the two things that's happening as of right now. But Patrick Mahomes is playing excellent football, and we saw it last week with Rashee Rice finally coming back and just putting it on the Las Vegas Raiders, or the Oakland Raiders, if you will. Sacramento, whatever they are. They put him on. They put it on the Raiders last week. Rashee Rice had 2 touchdowns, and you're starting to see the wide receiver core really come together, and it looks very, very dangerous, right? With Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, who is still dealing with some stuff, but I think he's going to be good to go. Travis Kelce has not aged to the extent that I thought he was. I think Travis Kelce has been playing excellent ball as of right now, and Hollywood Brown, man, continues to show up every single week. The defense concerns me a touch, but I think this game is going to be a lot of fun. I do have a couple of picks for this game. In terms of player props, I think Patrick Mahomes is going to go over 280. It's at minus 102 right now. I think that's an absolute no-brainer. It's Monday Night Football. Patrick Mahomes seems to thrive in prime time. Touchdown scores, I like Rashee Rice to score again. It's at minus 110. I think they're going to try to feed him the ball as much as possible, make up for lost time with Rashee Rice. And then in terms of game lines, over-under right now is 47.5. Love the over in this game. I think a lot of points are going to be scored. I think you're going to see a lot of stuff through the air that we haven't seen quite yet this year. We saw a lot of it against the Raiders. I think they're going to build on that momentum. Give me the Chiefs at minus 10. It's at minus 115. Love it. So Chiefs cover, hits the over. Rashee Rice scores a touchdown. Patrick Mahomes goes over 280.
So the Chiefs finally have a good crop of offensive playmakers healthy and playing.
Yeah.
Right. So that's something that we haven't talked about a lot the past couple of years. You finally have both Rice and Worthy and Kelsey's out there, and you got Hollywood Brown healthy and all that.
Yeah.
I'm going to go long shot. I don't think it should be this long, but for my touchdown score anytime, give me Tyquan Thornton. Now that I just named all those guys, plus 850 to score a touchdown in this one. I'll take Tyquan Thornton. I'll throw a dart at that. Also, the books seem to really like Travis Kelce, plus 100 to score a touchdown. I'm going to ride that.
Okay.
Travis Kelce, plus 100. I'm going back to Bill as well. Krosky Merritt, 50-plus rushing yards at minus 107. I don't think the football team's going to put together a lot of punch offensively against the Chiefs defense, who was stout last week against the Raiders and continues to be a top-tier defense. But I do think that they'll run the ball enough to where Bill gets to that 50 number.
Real quick, I know we got to cut to a break, but Josh Simmons, I believe, is still going to be out. Jalen Moore has been playing really good ball. I think he might be the highest paid backup left tackle in the NFL right now. So I'm not worried about that whatsoever.
Well, if not, and if Mahomes has to run for his life, give me the over 21.5 Patrick Mahomes rushing yards, as always, right? For Elijah Schmidt running the operations today and Dan Courtwright, I'm Sean Kellerman saying we'll catch you tomorrow on Rock Chalk Sports. Thanks for listening on ESPN Kansas City and watching KansasNation.com.